Tiger Woods documentary. It aired on Crave over the last 2 weeks. I will preface this as just sheer entertainment value. It is really interesting. I think it was really well done. It was shot well. I think that, a documentary about anyone at the pinnacle of their excellence, especially like when you can really see what it takes to be the best at something. I think that's something human beings just overlook. It's like, well, I could do that. And the thing is like, you might be able to, but do you have the mental and physical fortitude to be consistent to that level? So I think that the documentary did a really good job at that. I've talked to some friends that are big Tiger guys. They thought he didn't get a fair shake from this documentary. What do you think?
Let me just start off by saying, if you have Crave, you have to watch Tiger. If you have it.
Agreed.
If you don't have Crave, send me a message and I'll send you Josh's Crave details, all right? And I got you covered. I got you covered, all right? But seriously, I don't know. I agree with them. I don't think he got a fair shake. At some points I was watching it and I almost felt like naughty, like it was gossipy. You had his family friend,
right.
You had his first girlfriend there. And I thought to myself,
right.
What the fuck do I care about his first girlfriend? If you interviewed my first girlfriend, I don't think you'd get a very favorable perception of me. So
you know what? If we interviewed your current girlfriend, I don't know if we would.
I don't think we would either. But it's funny because I was looking at it first as like, they had the guy from the National Enquirer there.
Okay, I got to interject. That guy, and I obviously know that he's listening. You're dangerously close to being the jerk of the week. You're lucky that there was a bigger jerk, because that guy is the epitome of everything that is wrong with the world, really, right? Mm-hmm. It's this man that is, all he does is sit around and hope for somebody to fail and then talk about it in like this greasy way, like we're supposed to side with him, that Tiger is such a dirty person because, okay, he did cheat on his wife. It's plain as day. He kind of led on a lot of women and stuff like that. And not that he shouldn't be held accountable to that, but at the end of the day, he's a human being. It sounds like he's a good father. It sounds like, obviously, maybe sometimes a good friend, sometimes not a good friend. But I think, we're holding people to too high of a standard in that regard. And you have this greasy guy sitting there, like super proud of himself. I'm like, you work for the National Enquirer. That is the most garbage bag publicity stunt. Just, I can't say enough terrible words about that publication, and this guy just personified that in a body for me.
I have a bad association with the National Enquirer because they ran a story probably 20 years ago, probably 25 years ago, and I'll never forget it because my mom used to buy these things, or maybe I saw it at the Longo's checkout. I don't fucking remember, but they had one that was Bat Boy, a half boy, half bat living in a cave who was falling in love with Laura Bush. And as a kid, I believed it, and I was terrified because they had this Photoshop picture of a half boy, half bat. And I was terrified, but growing up, I realized I was like, "Oh my god, that's so stupid." That's just kind of an aside. But back to Tiger. I thought I came for Tiger, right? I turned it on because I wanted to see. Okay, let's see a bit more about Tiger. Let's watch this biopic. But I stayed for the commentary on America at the time, race politics, sports politics, and just everything. I think that looking back on it too, yes, okay, infidelity, terrible thing, but I don't go to an athlete for, marital advice or to be a role model with how to, behave, within the boundaries of a marriage or anything like that. I don't look to these people for sort of a moral compass, but I can understand how kids would. But if the media didn't blow it up at the time in the first place and get in his personal space and invade his private life, you saw the PGA director at one point saying we're all very disappointed in Tiger. Like, who cares?
That was a travesty.
That was horrible.
That is an absolute travesty. Like, yeah, there needs to be a separation between work and what you do. Like, I mean, when you're an athlete, I will say, you do have children that are looking up to you. And I believe that should have some implication maybe on your sponsors, maybe on because of, now you're going to be viewed as a different guy. But to literally hold the man to a fire over private decisions when, in my opinion, you're not physically harming somebody. You're not doing something that is, against the law. So how am I going to hold you to that standard and that expectation that you're going to be this perfect person? And I think the documentary for me, if anything, I thought it shed a positive light almost on the Tiger situation, for me at least, because it showed, a reasoning for potentially what was happening, even if it was a negative. The pressures of the world, the pressures of his father, the pressures of not really like being able to be a normal person, and he crumbled under it. And then how do you like how can you call yourself a good person for coming down on somebody when they have, people fail at things all the time, but it's not blasted on the news and you're not told what a garbage bag of a person you are.
Yeah, no, they wanted to see him fail from the beginning, because he was young, he was a black golfer, an absolute star, tearing up the scene, and well, like anything, right? You take race out of it for a moment, like anything, and they made mention of this, the crab in the bucket mentality. They want to pull. They cheer for the crab to climb out of the bucket, but then again, another crab grabs his leg and brings him in. It's like you cheer for the top dog until they stay at top dog status for a while. Then all of a sudden, it kind of becomes fun to see them fall off that pedestal. And I think that got
Sure.
magnified because he took the sport so by surprise, they just didn't give him a fair shake. And those old white PGA directors and commentators and fans that were kind of, criticizing him after that. I'm like, how are you going to sit there and criticize his infidelity when I would bet my left leg and my right nut that all these sons of bitches have about 5 mistresses each. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Did you do the left and the right so like you maintain your balance?
Just yeah, just so I don't fall over. But that these guys are doing less than savory things behind the. Get out of here! I was so mad at that point.
Oh my God, Augusta is literally on like an old, like what they say in the documentary was literally Augusta falls on like an old slave field, right? Like the sport of golf is still borderline an atrocity. I know that there's still places where women aren't even allowed to play.
Oh God.
Like I haven't like verified this, but I have heard this from a number of sources that the term golf is what, guys only, ladies forbidden. That's where the term golf came from. So it's like you're already in a sport that is like you're basically saying only white men are allowed to play. And I think that it has come a long way, and I think a lot of that has come from the fact that Tiger Woods was a black man that was at the top of the sport. Would it have happened otherwise? Probably, but it would have definitely taken longer. I know when one of the politicians, Condoleezza Rice, she is a black woman. She was the first woman, I believe, to get an actual membership and I'm pretty sure it is Augusta National. And it was such big news. And I mean, and to me, when I heard that, I remember thinking, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? You didn't let like women play there or be members until now? Like it didn't even cross my mind that it's a possibility. I feel like golf has flown under the radar for like what is traditionally like acceptable in society. And I think that the Tiger Woods drama shined a lot of light onto it.
Yeah, it did. And if we, in the next few years, get another sort of star like that brings golf to the forefront again, I think now our society is ready to confront those things. It may not have been at that point for, one reason or the other. But I think now if we get someone on the level or close to of Tiger, whether it's a male, female, black, white, whatever, then we can finally put it under the microscope again and address that, because golf is so antiquated in that regard. And it's actually, it's gross, because those same courses that would say no women allowed, or would scoff at a woman golfer, that they're jumping at the chance to hire young girls to be the cart girl, right, or the bartender. Exactly. Right. So yeah. It's just gross to me. It's just perverted to me, and it's just another of many sort of scenes, or I guess spheres, that you have to wait for the old dinosaurs to die off, and then we're gonna start to make some change.
Yeah, like I said, I think we're trajecting on that grounds already at this point. I think it has come a long way in the last like 15, 20 years. I think golf, and I think we see that similarly with hockey. The barrier to entry into the sport is so high because the cost is so high. So basically, any marginalized part of society doesn't have a fair opportunity to play in the sport. And that's why the NHL and in the PGA, it's predominantly white, right? Like you're basically looking at upper middle class families that can have that kind of disposable income and that level of time to dedicate to their children being great at a sport. And I think that's where it kind of has to come from a grassroots. Like, what is Titleist doing to ensure that we have more black golfers? What is Callaway doing? What is the government doing? I think that we got a long way to go, but I think we have seen, some serious strides over the last decade or so.